Good evening, everybody. My name's Principal Swartwood here at Golden Valley High School with Facebook Live, ready to answer your questions concerning the upcoming in-person learning opening on November 2nd and any other questions you might have. Helping me tonight is my administrative team. I have answering in the chat box Associate Principals Tiffany Gossman, Megan Cope, and Lindsay Parker. And I also have Associate Principal Mike Richter here asking the questions that you guys have sent in ahead of time, and I'll answer those questions one at a time. We have about, I think it was 20 questions to go through, and you're welcome to add questions into the chat where the Associate Principals Cope, Gossman, and Parker will answer those as best they can. So, we're ready to start. Mr. Richter, go ahead.
What safety measures and precautions have been put in place to make sure the classrooms are safe?
Okay, so multiple measures have been put in place for when we start in-person learning on November 2nd. The first thing we're going to do, and I'm sure this question probably comes up later, is everybody, students and staff, have to wear a mask. So that's a must. When you get on campus, we'll have masks available for students if they don't have one, but they will be required to wear the mask throughout the day, outside of the classroom and inside the classroom. So that's a real big measure we're going to put in place. We're also asking students and staff to socially distance themselves 6 feet apart from each other wherever they are on campus, and that's not an easy task. We know students have not seen each other for the most part. They've been on campus since March. They're going to want to congregate, to talk, to socialize, but we need to help them, and we'll talk to them every day about staying socially distanced, 6 feet apart. Our classrooms are set up that way. We'll have our food lines set up that way. We'll remind students as they're just hanging around campus at lunch about those rules in place and why they're in place, really for their own safety. So those things are in place and will be completed when we start on November 2nd. And again, it's just a way to help keep your students safe and therefore other students safe also.
How will the kids get to school on a bus?
All right, so we will have transportation, and our bus director, Ms. Williams, is working hard on getting those routes set up. We first have to make sure we give her the list of names of students that are coming back to school. So we've provided her that list of students that are coming back for in-person learning. Now she's going to set up the bus routes. What's important to know is that they have restrictions also on the bus, and those restrictions are one person per seat. So with one person per seat, they may have to do more than one route to certain areas to get everybody to school. And sometimes those routes might have to come earlier in order to get everybody here on campus at the right time. So yes, we will be busing one person per seat, and we'll probably need multiple routes.
Are we going to be switching rooms and with our original teachers as usual at every period?
Yes, the answer is yes to that question. You will have, for the most part, most of you will have your exact same schedule you have now. Ms. Cope is in charge of that area. She's done a great job of making sure your schedules don't change. Again, there may be some of you that do, but very few. So count on having the same schedule you do now. You will be moving from room to room like a normal high school setting. So you'll be moving from first period to second period teacher to third period, etc. There will be cleaning protocols in place as you enter rooms, and we're going to need your help, students, to make sure that's done properly. And yeah, so think of a normal high school setting, moving room to room, being on campus before 8:14, and being here till 3:05.
What if your parent decided you would either return to school or remain online, but changed their mind and wants to do the other? How do you change it, and is there any way?
Okay, so That survey went out a week ago, and we asked for responses from families about, are you keeping your child home for distance learning, or are you sending your child for in-person learning? We got most of you sent responses back. We got you on the path you wanted. It was a choice that you had. There were quite a few that did not respond to that. So if we got no response from a family, we put you in person learning. Okay, that way we knew what numbers we had to deal with here on campus. So what's important to know is this: if, as a parent out there, if you want to move your child from in-person learning to distance learning, we can do that. We can do that pretty much at any time. That wouldn't be an issue. But if you're trying to move your child from distance learning back to in-person learning, at this point, that would have to wait until semester, and the semester ends in mid-January, January 14th to be exact. The reason for that is that our classrooms are set up to house about 15 students per classroom, being socially distanced at 6 feet apart. So we can't just bring students into those classes once they're set at a certain number, because once they become basically full at 15, there's no place to put that student. So again, from in-person to distance learning, we can do that. From distance learning to in-person, that would have to wait till semester to see if we have room.
How do you know which day you will go back? And does everyone start on November 2nd?
All right, for all of you in-person learning students out there, our first day back is November 2nd. Half of you will come back on that day. The other half will come back the next day, November 3rd. If you look on Aries, under the demographics page, you'll see, just scroll down a little bit, you'll see your group. For you, if you're in person, it will say Cardinal or it will say Gold. If you're in the Cardinal group, you'll start on November 2nd. If you're in the Gold group, you'll start on November 3rd. For you families out there that are wondering, how do I find that? Where do I see that? We will send letters out next week. We will send letters out to families and let you know, here's the bell schedule. Here's the actual A-day, B-day schedule, so you know exactly what days your child comes.
And will distance learners have to change their schedules and or teachers?
So at this point, distance learning will be like in-person learning as far as that goes. We will not need to change your schedule. Your schedules will stay the same. Your teachers will stay the same. Again, with a few exceptions, they will stay the same, whether you're distance learning or in-person learning.
Why not just stick with distance learning like we had planned for the entire first semester?
Okay, that's a great question. So we had a plan, right? And the plan was through the first semester, all of us would be on distance learning. So here's basically what happened. The COVID-19 numbers in our county dropped enough to put us into the red, and if it was in the red for 2 weeks, we were able to start. Well, we've accomplished that at this point, and I know if you follow the county numbers, there is a little bit of an uptick right now, and we're heading back toward that possible purple area. But the window of opportunity to start was now, and that's why we took that opportunity to plan for this now. There are people out there that say, hey, you should just wait. Why don't you hold up on this? The concern was, if we don't take the opportunity now, we might not have an opportunity later. So our county health department has said, once you start in-person learning, you can continue in-person learning, even if it ticks back up into the purple mode. So the idea was, let's get students back on campus. Let's start in-person learning while we're in the red. And again, this is our window of opportunity. And then build closer and closer to a normal school setting as the year goes on.
Why not allow students who need the most help back first and leave the rest on distance learning?
You know, I understand the question. But the fact of the matter is, in order to make it, we had to give parents and families a choice because each family is different. Some families may have somebody in the family that has compromised health, so they don't want to come back because they're worried about the health of that person. There's a lot of reasons why families might choose to keep their child home on distance learning, and we wanted to make sure that since each situation is different, then we gave the parent, the guardians, the families the choice. You can keep them home, or you can send them to school. We feel confident that was the best thing for all of our families.
What will the Bell schedule look like, and will it continue to be the distance learning schedule with half-hour classes, or will it return to the schedule before?
All right, great question. Current distance learning schedules have us at 30 minutes per period, and then an asynchronous assignment after that 30 minutes. So you're still in school till 3:05. On November 2nd, our schedule reverts back to our last year's Bell schedule. We will resend that out to everybody along with what day your child comes to school. But first period starts at 8:14 still, just like it does now. But we will have classes. We will have the normal length of classes, and we will have a lunch period like we've always had before, and school will end at 3:05. So that the 30-minute class periods that you're used to in distance learning now will go away on November 2nd.
For in-person learning, will breakfast and lunch be provided, and how is social distancing going to be put in place? Do we have to wear a mask while trying to eat?
All right, great question. So yes, we will have breakfast. Breakfast will be served before school starts up until about 8:10. Our first period class starts at 8:14. We will also have a nutrition break right a little bit after 10 a.m. Just a grab and go type situation, kind of a second chance breakfast, I guess. And then we'll have a lunch break. There will be food carts set up around campus so that students can grab and go. We will have lines, but Ms. Gossman has set up a system of socially distanced stickers on the ground so students can see where 6 feet apart, what it looks like, and where I should stand, so we'll keep them separate that way. And yes, they have to wear a mask. Now, while they're eating at break or at lunch, they can take their mask down or off while they're eating or drinking. But we're not going to allow eating and drinking in classrooms. So during class time, there won't be eating and drinking. It'll only be outside or in the cafeteria for inclement weather, that type of thing. But yes, we will have breakfast and lunch as always.
Will students be allowed to go off campus for lunch?
Not to begin with, we will not have off-campus lunch privileges to start with, and that's strictly safety protocol in place. Once we get students here on campus in the morning, we're going to keep them here until the end of the day or until a parent checks them out for a doctor or dentist appointment or some type of a appointment that they might have off campus. At some point down the road, when that is, we're not sure, but at some point down the road, we would like to reinstitute our off-campus lunch privileges for those students that have earned that privilege. We don't know when that's going to be. We'll look at it again at the end of the first semester, which will be in January, and we'll see where we're at. And it may or may not happen at that time, but to begin with, it will not happen.
Will students who have no class for one or multiple periods be required to leave campus?
Okay, so it really depends on when your not enrolled period is. So a lot of our juniors and seniors out there will have one or more not enrolled periods. Our guidance department, our counselors with Ms. Cope try to put those at the beginning or end of the day. So either you show up later or you go home early. It doesn't always work that way. So if there's a time when you have a not enrolled period in the middle of the day, you do not have to leave. We'll have a place for you to be here on campus because there won't be very many of you. And then when your next period comes up, you can just go ahead and go to that class.
Will athletics that are usually conducted indoors be allowed to start their practice in the gym when school starts back on November 2nd?
We don't know the answer to that question. Right now, our athletics teams are in phase A, and phase A means they're allowed to be outside only. And they can do certain drills within groups of 10. And they have to be socially distanced. And it's not easy to do, but that's what our coaches are dealing with now in phase A. In order for us to go indoors, we need to be, our county health department would have to allow us to go in what we call phase B. Phase B would mean indoor activities, weight rooms, gyms, that type of thing. The groups of 10 to 1 would go away, be able to do more game-like situations. You can't wear any gear yet, but you can do more game-like situations. We had hoped phase B would start when we open school to in-person learning on November 2nd, but we do not have that information yet. So what we're counting on right now is that when we start school on November 2nd, we will still be in phase A and not be using gyms and weight rooms yet.
Both of my students are in band and have it for multiple periods. Will there be 0 period /1A for in-person learning? I need to know if I need to bring them at 7 or 8 a.m. when we return to school. And will they be bringing instruments?
So band will have 1A period. That will occur. Our band classes, there'll be half of them here at a time, right, with in-person learning. So we will have a place for you. If we are not able to play indoors, then maybe we're able to play outdoors. But we are still working on that answer from public health. Is there a way we can let our students play wind instruments inside, socially distanced? Maybe if there's maybe we can use the theater, a much larger area for them to sit in during 1A and conduct their class. So that's all being worked upon. In talking to Mr. Mike Vasquez, when students come back to school November 2nd and 3rd, the answer is yes, bring your instrument with you, because he has other things planned for those of you that are in person if you can't play. But you might as well bring it back to school. We store it here. You'll have it every morning during 1A when we are allowed to play. Those are all the questions we had submitted tonight. Hopefully you got your questions answered in the chat room. And we will conduct one more of these next week. We'll advertise that through Parent Square with the link to submit questions. And then we'll start on November 2nd with a whole new platform. We appreciate your cooperation, your patience, your positivity as we go through this change in platform. And thank you very much for being with us tonight. And good. Our last comment. Great job by Golden Valley's Ag Department. #1 Ag program in the state of California. If you know any of those ag teachers or students in ag, tell them congratulations on just really a job well done. Thank you for being with us tonight. Good night.